Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales. Scafell Pike, the highest mountain in England. Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in Scotland. 14 teams pit themselves against these mountains, the sea, and each other. To be the first team to sail between and conquer each of the peaks. The Three Peaks Yacht Race was devised by Barmouth GP Rob Howard and his partner, the late Mervyn Jones. After 2 decades, the race still provides a unique challenge.
The main problem, of course, is stamina. You've got to keep going. It's a non-stop race. Barmouth to Caernarfon, then up and down Snowdon, then to Ravenglass, up and down Scafell, then all the way to Fort William and up and down Ben Nevis. It's non-stop, and you've got to keep something in reserve for the last legs. It's a matter of stamina, and it's a matter of having the spirit to keep going.
And it's the spirit of this man, Bill Tilman, which inspired the idea of the race. After a distinguished army career, Tilman came to live in Barmouth. He was a writer and adventurer who spent his time sailing ancient wooden yachts across some of the world's most dangerous oceans, so that he could find and explore mountains where no one had ever been before. Tilman always sailed with a crew of 5, a principle which was adopted by the first Three Peaks Committee, of which he was a member. At the age of 79, Bill Tilman sailed to the South Atlantic on what was to be his last expedition. After leaving Rio de Janeiro, he and his crew were never seen again. The starting point for the race is Barmouth on the West Wales coast. Today, it's changed its seafaring traditions to become a popular holiday resort. Sailing microstation modeller, Peter Newlands was second last year. With the smart money on him, he knows what he's up against.
It's proper sailing, proper adventure stuff. You know, it still involves everything from navigation and luck and the sea, the weather, and human power with the rowing and so on.
And it's the rowing that makes this race different. When there's no wind, it gets even tougher.
It's a great race, it's a great stamina, sort of marathon type race. It's hard work, of course, and like anything else, you know, it relies on a bit of luck.
Luck is important, but in order to shorten the odds, Richard knows that if his runners, Menna Angharad and Angela Barker, are to get to the peaks, he must look after them.
Our attitude is that we have to keep the runners in peak performance because they're the ones that have to perform on the mountains. So we have to be careful that we don't overexert them, frighten them, and we've got to keep their level of expectations quite high.
Angela also has high expectations of the sailors.
Basically, they're the sailors, they're experts in their field, and if they ask us to do something, we'll help them, but no, we trust them.
As the runners join the yacht, the team's navigator is quite clear about their aim.
Well, I mean, you're there to win. I mean, you do a race to win. And, I mean, if they reckon they can do it, and we can get it, you've just got to go for it. With an easterly wind pushing the yachts to Bardsey, the first of Portsmouth, there's no need to crack the line.
microstation modeller takes the early lead. Using his local knowledge, Tudor turns to find more wind inshore. Meanwhile, further out in the bay, the microstation modeller loses the breeze. Belly Partnership is flying at over 20 knots, but they are carrying too much sail, and their race almost ends as the yacht nosedives and comes to a standstill. Microstation seizes the opportunity and moves back into the lead. As Belly Partnership are forced to reduce sail, they can only watch as the other yachts sail away from them towards Bardsey. With such a simple concept, there are many natural hazards to be overcome. The first of these is Bardsey Sound, 30 miles from Barmouth, notorious for its fickle winds and strong tides. Tudor has regained his lead and is first through the passage. The monohulls are not far behind. Leading them, Team Syntake is the first victim of the contrary winds and tides. They are losing place after place while struggling to bring the yacht under control. By sunset, the whole fleet are safely through and on their way to Caernarfon. Caernarfon, 12:47. Belly Partnership land their runners. They have taken just 7 hours and 17 minutes for the 62-mile passage from Barmouth. It's going to be a night run on Snowdon, but first the women have to wait 5 minutes while the race marshals carry out a compulsory kit and safety check. Seven minutes after they leave, the microstation men, Nigel Jenkins and Vic Johnston, have landed. With a baton handed to the runners, the sailors will be kept busy preparing the boat for the next leg.
It's very fast, very exciting. Grand Bardsey was extremely exciting. We must have been touching 20 knots on occasions. Have we got a bow line?
Jenkins and Johnston are in pursuit. Not only are the teams racing each other, but they are now racing to get back in time to catch the next tide. The women are through the checkpoint on the summit of Snowdon, and they have held their lead.
Coach is microstation modeller.
.30 AM, and the mountain is history.
Hey, boys, you are stormy. 6 minutes and 20 seconds behind. What a mess.
With the leaders almost in Caernarfon, the slower teams finished the descent in daylight. And Mena and Harad and Angela Barker rejoin the boat. It has taken them 4 hours and 14 minutes, but Microstation have closed the gap and are only 3 minutes behind.
Just arriving now.
Come on, you know, I'll come down and look after you. Come on.
Lovely.
Okay. Shift the other end.
Having made ground on the land, Microstation skipper Peter Newlands is hoping to do the same on the water, thanks to light winds.
We think as it gets lighter, we will row better. It'd be easier to row this than a bigger, heavier boat. And we just have to hack it in a breeze and hold on.
The Swellies looks harmless enough from the air, but with swirling tides barely covering the rocks, it's a sailor's nightmare. Meanwhile, the runners need as much rest as possible, with the next peak only 80 miles away.
The aim is to let them rest and we take care of the sailing, because they've always got another hill coming up.
What the skipper says and what the skipper has to do are two very different things, as runner Vic Johnston finds out. Both of the yachts are through on the tide and en route for Ravenglass. The rest of the fleet are starting their run through the bridges. Parhealy on a 38-foot monohull crewed by a team of firefighters have taken the lead. Team Syntec have retired from the race with damage sustained in Barnsley Sound. Up ahead, the wind is back. It's filled in from the south and it's a sleigh ride to Ravenglass. Good for the sailors, but hell for the runners who can only lie on the rigging and suffer their seasickness. Scarfell Pike, 3,210 feet and a 32-mile round trip from Ravenglass, the nearest harbour. The tide is almost out, and it's touch and go whether the yachts will be able to get in. Sunday, 1:40. Just over 8.5 hours after leaving Caernarfon, Mena and Angela check in with the marshals at Ravenglass. The sailors have beaten the race record for the passage by 26 minutes.
What's through Van Rack?
On the last drop of tide, Microstation are trying to get in. If they don't make it, the Valley Partnership will have won a 6-hour lead. But by a miracle, they do get in, and their runners are only 30 minutes behind. The women are still leading at the summit, but they are 2 minutes from the top when they realise their lead has been greatly reduced.
What time are the girls in?
How many minutes ago were they here?
5 minutes.
The men are close, but in the mist, Angela Barker's compass work pays off as they stay on the path. The men, tearing after them, take a wrong turn. There's no alternative but to regain the summit and start down again. Almost off the mountain, and the women have got their 30-minute advantage back. The strain is beginning to tell, as inch by inch the men close the gap. The tide is back, and once again it's all square as the four runners arrive together. Station leads the way out. The next stop is Fort William. Monday morning, and the monohull fleet are in Ravenglass with Parhelion way ahead. No rush for these runners, as their boats are stranded high and dry on the beach. Meanwhile, the multi-hulls battle it out on the 235-mile passage to Fort William. What is it that drives them on?
The whole thing is about winning and competing. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, if it goes wrong, I mean, we'll put Plan B into operation.
Just before 5 p.m. With a trail of broken records behind him, Richard Tudor lands his runners for the final challenge. The highest mountain in the race is Ben Nevis at 4,406 feet and a total distance of 17.5 miles. If they can find their way, that is. The skipper is full of admiration for his runners.
It's been hard work for them. They haven't complained at all. They've been sick, they've been a bit, they've been very, very tired, they've been very stressed, and we've been pushing the yacht quite hard, so they've been feeling the tension that we've been transmitting through to them, I'm sure. But they've come across, they've come through it, and they're now on the mountain.
Also in the record books, microstation modeller docks only 2 hours behind.
Thank you.
Their runners have a lot to do, and Richard Tudor is worried. He knows that a race is never won until it's over. Mountains are dangerous and unpredictable places. And they don't come more dangerous than the summit of Ben Nevis.
3 feet, where are you?
In the mist, it's difficult to find the checkpoint.
The observatory. Not tell me that. Yeah. Hello?
With victory in mind, they are well down the mountain and no sight of the microstation runners. Elation for the runners. Celebration for the sailors. Two days, 3 hours and 4 minutes after leaving Barmouth, the Ferry Partnership team win the 22nd Three Peaks Yacht Race. They have beaten the existing race record by an astonishing 5 hours and 8 minutes.
A bit of a rest now. I think bed, then food and a shower. I think that's the order of the day. And we haven't slept at all, so in the last 2 days.
At least Tudor can go to bed now. Monohull leaders Parhelion is stuck at the Coral Narrows, just 9 miles from the race finish. The wind has dropped, the tide is sweeping them backwards, and they spend the night rowing just to hold their position. They arrive in the early hours of Wednesday morning. It has taken them almost 15 hours to cover the last 9 miles. They are followed during the day by the rest of the fleet. Win or lose, for everyone taking part, the race has truly been an adventure. In the spirit of the man who inspired it all, H.W. Tilman.